Good morning. It's good to be here and enjoy. Me and my family, we've enjoyed our time. We've gotten to spend last night getting to know some of you and some of you this morning. And names might be rough, but I'm doing my best to remember those of you guys that I've met. I'm told I have permission to come down a little bit closer, and that if you threw anything, it would be soft items. So I hope I heard accurately with that. It's always interesting listening to somebody that you don't really know. It's like, why should I listen to this person, this stranger? Why should I care what he has to say? So I was trying to remedy that a little bit. Just give you a quick introduction. My wife Tabitha and I, and we have 4 daughters. And just to keep things simple, we did this all to be considerate to you, but their names are A, B, C, and D. Alana, Brianna, Sierra, and Delaney. All knowing that would make it easier for you all. You're welcome. All right. So we are from Georgia. Well, we have been in Georgia 12 years. To the people in Georgia, we're still Yankees. We grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Illinois. Originally, my wife's from Indiana. So to you, we're from Georgia. To them, we're from up here. So I don't know where we're from exactly. But, so that's just a brief synopsis about me. And another good way to get to know somebody is to hear a story about their life, especially if somebody opens up and they're vulnerable with you, then you kind of feel like you get to know them a little bit better. So I'm going to go out on the limb. I'm going to share a story with you guys, not one of my finest moments, and that way, that maybe you'll feel like you know me a little bit better. And then you can listen to the rest of what I have to say. I want to tell you about a story that happened. I was a youth minister, and we were on a CIY trip to Milligan College with a bunch of high schoolers. And some of our youth leaders that were there with us, helping us out, they wanted to take this group whitewater rafting. And so we made the arrangements. I agreed. I thought that would be a fun way to spend our free day. So we organized it, got it all set up, went to the facility, and went through the orientation and stuff, and got ready for our whitewater rafting trip. And then we load up in the bus, and the bus is taking you to where you're going to get on the river. And so as you're driving on the bus, you can look down and you see the river, and you see some of the rafts already going down, and you can see the rapids, and you can kind of look. And so that was getting some of the kids excited. It's like, yeah, we're going to be on that river, And it was getting some of them kind of nervous and kind of scared. They were a little like, oh, what are we getting ourselves into, So I was trying to calm the ones that are getting a little nervous. It's a little late at this point. We're all going whitewater rafting, so I'm trying to encourage them, calm them down a little bit, that everything's going to be all right. Now is probably a good time to tell you a little bit about me. All right? I'm not that big on water. I can't swim. I've never learned how to swim, and so I'm not that big on water. And I'm okay with certain things that are under my control. Like, I'll get in a boat, and that's fine. We'll go to the beach and play in the water. We'll go to water parks and do water slides. As long as I have some feeling of control, I'm all right. But if I lose that, I start to get pretty panicky because I can't swim. So here I am, trying to play it cool because I'm the youth minister, I'm the leader. So I've got to play it cool, even though I'm scared to death. All right? And so, these high school girls are all in tears because they're so nervous. And I'm like, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fun. And in my head, I'm going, oh my goodness. Why do I have to, what am I getting myself into? So, we get in the raft, we've got the helmets, we've got, Gene hooked me up a little bit. We got we had the helmets, we got the life jackets, except they were probably some bright, I don't remember, they were probably some bright neon colors so they could see you float off to your death, But anyway, so we were all hooked up, ready to go. The trip was going good. It was actually kind of fun at times, everything was going pretty good. And then somewhere towards the end of the trip, our raft tips over, and we're all spilled out into the river. And I find out later that our actual raft guide, that this guy is paid to ride in the raft with you, flipped us over on purpose so that, because our trip, to be more exciting, because who doesn't want to be dumped into the river, when you're whitewater rafting. So apparently he thought that was the fun way to do it. So here I am in the water. And I remember this has been years and years ago now. I remember this so clearly. I remember being in the water, being underwater. And it was like time was crawling. Time was like standing still. And I remember thinking, okay, I've got this vest on. Any minute now, this is going to bring me back up to the surface of the water. We're going to be all right. Okay, any minute now, this vest is going to bring me up. This vest isn't working. I got the vest that isn't going to work. This is it. This is it. I'm going to die. And there's this weird sense of peace and calm. And it's like, okay, this is it. I should have known better when we get this raft. This is it. So it was actually calm and peaceful until I broke the surface of the water. And then I was panicking. I was screaming, I can't swim! Now, the high school students that were there that day, they will say that I was screaming like a little girl. But I don't trust them. Don't believe their version of the story. But I was panicked, and I was screaming, I can't swim, I can't swim. And one of the things they teach you before you get out on the river is if you get in that situation, and you can, if you're near it, then reach up and grab onto the raft. So luckily I came up, I surfaced, and I managed to, in my flailing, found the raft, and I grabbed onto it. And so then I was feeling a little better about myself, a little bit of control. I had my hand on the raft, still kind of panicky, but doing okay. Then our tour guide, I don't know what they're called, a tour guide, raft guide, river guide, whatever his name was, the jerk that dumped us into the water, he says, let go of the raft. I'm like, you told me that if I got in the water I was supposed to hold on to the raft, and now you want me to let go of the raft. There's no way I'm letting go of this raft. Alright? Well, I didn't realize this raft was upside down. And so for us to get back in the raft, it requires flipping the raft over, which required me letting go of the raft. And I was not interested in letting go of the raft. Through all the chaos and all the blur of things, I remember hearing my wife Tabitha's voice, telling me it was okay, it was going to be okay, let go of the raft, and it was hearing her voice, calmed me down enough to, and I survived, if you were wondering, I'm here. And so, not my finest moment. So after church today, we're going to line up and we're going to share your embarrassing stories so that we're even. But it wasn't my finest moment. Water is a fascinating thing. Because our experience with water, it depends on the circumstances surrounding it. It depends on our relationship to the water. I mean, water can be refreshing. A cold glass of water on a hot day, it can replenish us. It can be so refreshing. When the rain comes and waters the fields and replenishes the earth. Water can be relaxing. You swim in, fishing or swimming, and it can be just a nice, relaxing kind of thing. Water can also be exciting. There's all kinds of water sports. There's all kinds of events that they can do in the water and have fun. It can be exciting. Water can also be damaging. It doesn't take much water when those of you guys that haven't had any plumbing issues in your house. It's amazing how little amount of water it takes to wreak havoc. Water can cause a lot of damage, and we've seen areas that have flooding, and we know the most destructive part of a hurricane sometimes is that storm, this swell that comes in, and all that water can be damaging. It can be deadly. It can take lives. So water can be all these things. It depends on our relationship to the water and how much water it is and the circumstances surrounding it. And I kind of want to take that idea and apply it to our spiritual lives. But first I would like to pray. So if you guys would bow your heads with me. Father God, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the beauty of it. Thank you for waking us up and bringing us together. Lord, I pray that you would speak through me. That I can just be your vessel and your words would be shared against me. Lord, thank you for being a God of all things. And we ask for your presence. Open our eyes, open our ears, open our hearts. In your Son's name I pray. Amen. So we're going to look at three different ideas today. We're going to look at sinking, floating, and sailing. We're going to start with sinking. Are you sinking today? And it's my prayer that as we go through these things, you'll either find yourself in one of these things, and I will speak to that, or you will find somebody that you love, somebody that you care about. And this might help you understand where they're at. Because some people in this world are sinking. And some signs that you're sinking is if you're just overwhelmed with stress. We all have stress. We all have things in our lives that stressful moments. But when you're sinking, you're just overwhelmed with stress, with anxiety. You feel like you're sinking. You feel like there's no way out. You feel like you're drowning. Whatever your issues are, whether they're financial, or maybe it's something to do with your job, or something to do with your health, something that's out of your control, and maybe you've tried to cry out for help and don't feel like anybody's listening. Maybe you've been trying to cry out to God and don't feel like He's listening. And you just feel like you're sinking, like you're drowning. Sometimes you may not even want to get out of bed. Life is just that hard and you're sinking. You're in over your head. There's three major groups of people that are sinking. There's a group of people that are sinking and they don't even realize it. I mean, they may have depression, they may have anxiety or stress, but they just think that that is a normal part of life. They're not even looking for a way out because they don't even realize that they're sinking. They just think that is the way life is. And so they're sinking, they're in danger of going down, but they don't even realize the situation they're in, the danger that they're in. And there's a second group of people that are sinking, but they realize it. They want help. And maybe they've tried to cry out for help and they feel like it's fallen on deaf ears and nobody's hearing them, nobody understands what they're going through. But they realize they're sinking, they realize they're in trouble, and they are crying out for help. They are desperately seeking to be rescued. And there's a third group, and this group might be kind of hard for some of us to understand, but there are a group of people that are sinking and realize they're sinking, but don't want to be rescued. Maybe there's certain behaviors in their lives or things in their life that they're not willing to give up. They know giving up those things would put them in a better situation, but they're addicted to those things or they don't want to give those things up. Getting out of what they're in, their situation, would take too much effort, would take too much work, and they're willing to stay sinking than to get help. But if you're sinking today, you are in good company. I mean, anxiety and depression, stress is such a big deal in the world we live in today. That if you haven't dealt with or you're not dealing with it, if you look to your left or to your right, chances are that person has been. And we're also not alone when we look through the scripture of people who were sinking at different times. I want to share with you a story that you're probably mostly familiar with. I don't have it on a slide because I feel you guys are mostly familiar with it. But the scene is Jesus and the disciples, they've gotten on a boat to get away from the crowd. And they're out in the middle of the ocean and a storm starts to brew up. And I'm reading from Mark chapter 4. And I'm going to start at verse 37 when the storm comes. A furious squall comes up. The waves break over the boat. And so it was nearly swamped. So here the boat is, it's taken on water. The storm is so bad that they're in danger of going down. And the people on the boat, the disciples, are panicking. And we know, if you know this story, you know that Jesus is on the boat, but he's asleep. And so the disciples woke him up. This is verse 38. The disciples woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" So Jesus gets up, rebukes the wind, and says to the waves, "Quiet, be still." And the wind died down, and it was completely calm. And he said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" So the disciples were sinking, and they were going down. They go to find Jesus, and Jesus, because sometimes I wonder, in my head, my first instinct is to picture Jesus like going and yelling at them, "Be still, quiet," and the storm calms down, like with authority, But they just woke him up. I'm wondering if all it took for Jesus, he had, in his amazing power, if he's just kind of yawning and saying, "Storm, got out," You gotta go back to bed, So I don't know what kind of tone of voice, but the storm listened to him and calmed down. Now it's easy to give the disciples a hard time. Us on this side of the cross, this side of the resurrection, we know how the story ends. We have all the promises. And so sometimes it's easy to look at the disciples and say, Jesus was always trying to, they just didn't get it. They just didn't get it. He kept having to say, you have little faith, and why don't you guys understand? But one thing we can say in this situation is that they knew where to go for help. When there was a storm, they went to get Jesus. And I love their familiarity with Jesus. He was so approachable to them that it wasn't even help save us. It wasn't even Jesus, we're drowning. It was like the attitude behind it. Like, don't you even care that we're going to drown? Like, they don't really expect Jesus to say, no, I don't really care if you drown. Leave me alone. They knew the answer. It was just spoken with this kind of attitude of somebody that you can approach and just be totally honest with. See, the secret to sinking is sometimes we can be so focused on the drowning. So focused on the waves, the water around us, whatever situation in life is, we're so focused on that we forget whose voice to listen to. We forget where to go for help. On that day in the water, when we were water rafting, it wasn't until I heard my wife's voice, the voice I knew somebody, I knew she loved me, I knew I could trust her. And so I listened. And that's the secret in life. When we feel like we're sinking, when we feel like we're overwhelmed, you got to find the voice of the one who loves us, the one we can trust. And that voice is the voice of the Lord. And if we listen, we will find Him. If we let fear, anxiety, sometimes we let those things drown out that voice. We're so consumed with the things that are going on, and the voice of God gets drowned out. I'd like us to look at 1 Peter 5, verse 7. And this is written by Peter. The same Peter that would have been in that boat that was sinking. And we don't know who actually did the speaking. We don't know which disciples said, Jesus, don't you care if we're going to drown? We don't know who actually said that, but we know Peter was there. It may have even been him, knowing Peter. That was the one, that he was one of the more vocal ones, not afraid to speak. So this is that same Peter that thought they were going to drown and sink in the boat. And this is what he's saying now. This is after the resurrection, after they're starting the church. And he tells other believers this. He says, cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. I've heard this verse countless times and totally missed something. That verse, the verb in that sentence, cast. It's not a passive word. This isn't like place your worries, place your anxieties to Jesus. It's not lay them down. It's not, gently place them to Jesus. This word cast, the definition of cast is to forcefully throw something in a specific direction. There's power in that word cast. It's something that's done with force. It's something that if you cast something, it's going far away from you. That's what Peter is saying to do with our anxiety. Because it takes that effort sometimes. It takes that work. It's not easy. Sometimes it takes that force to say, I know this anxiety, and I don't like it anymore. I want to get rid of that. I'm going to cast it to Jesus. Why? Because He cares for you. God cares for you. And your problems, your struggles, whatever is causing you to feel like you're sinking, didn't come as a surprise to Him. It's not like God was up in heaven and He's like, you know what? I haven't checked on Nick for a while, so I'm going to go check on him. Oh my goodness, look at that mess that he's got himself into. What were you thinking? I don't know how I'm going to get you out of that. Guys, we're getting some help over here. Nick has ruined his life. It didn't come as a surprise to God. He knows us. He loves us. There's nothing that we are not going through that is a surprise to Him. You can't catch Him off guard. So we can cast our anxieties, we can cast our fears, our insecurities on Him. Forcefully throw them in His direction. He can handle it. They won't catch Him off guard. So if you're sinking, I just challenge you to cast your anxiety because He cares for you. Now we're going to move on to the idea of floating. If you're spiritually floating, you're just kind of there. You go to church. Maybe you pray, read your Bible fairly, often, and you're not really going anywhere. You're just kind of hanging out. You're just kind of going through the motions, letting life kind of carry you along. Yeah, there might be some sin in your life, but it's not that big a deal. It's not a big sin. There's people out there that are doing a lot worse stuff than I am, so I'm okay. And you're just kind of floating. You're believing in Christ, and you're kind of going through the motions, but you're not really doing anything. There's no direction. There's no destination. There's no movement. There's no momentum. You're just floating. I know sometimes in my life I've been floating, and the appeal is it's easy. It doesn't take much effort to float. It's comfortable. It's easy to stay content, and everything seems fine. But the danger with floating is drifting. I don't know if you've ever been to the beach. We enjoy, once a year we go to a place called Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. And I don't know if you've ever been to a beach, and so you get there, you set up your beach chair, your umbrella, your blanket, you got all your stuff set up. Then you go out in the ocean. Maybe you got your wave board, or maybe you're just wading out in the ocean, swimming, whatever you're doing. You're spending some time in the ocean, having a good time. Then you look up, and you see an umbrella. You see a chair, but that's not your umbrella. That's not your chair. That's not your group. And you scan the beach, and your stuff is way down the beach. Without even realizing it, the water has carried you, and you've drifted, and where you thought you were is not where you're at. Your stuff is way over there. And that's the danger with floating spiritually, is we can look up and not be as close as we think we are. We think, us and God, we're good, we're doing fine, and then we can look up and realize we're not where we thought we were. This kind of lulls us to sleep. Sometimes Satan, instead of trying to destroy us, he'll just distract us and keep us busy with these little things in life, these other things that are going on. And if we're not careful, if we don't look up, we won't realize that we've drifted. I want to share with you a verse in Romans chapter 12. It's going to be on the screen, or you can look it up if you want to. I encourage you today, go home, read all of chapter 12, because it's a shame I'm just pulling one verse out. Chapter 12 is great. I just want to highlight verse 11, because it applies to this idea of floating. It says, "Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord." So this verse is one of those verses, we encounter them quite a bit in Scripture, that is saying the same thing twice, a little differently to kind of clarify and specify exactly what he means, but kind of saying this, having the same idea and repeating it. So it's never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor. So it's kind of saying the same thing in a different way. So never be lacking in zeal.